Well, welcome, bienvenue. My name is Stephanie Engelhardt-Paulin, and I'm the mayor of Campbellton. On behalf of the cities of Bathurst, Campbellton, Dieppe, Edmundston, and Fredericton, Miramichi, Moncton, and St. John, we welcome you to your fourth and final webinar on the Strong City, Strong Province Speaker Series. Bienvenue. Je m'appelle Stephanie Engelhardt-Paulin.
And welcome. My name is Stephanie Engelhardt-Paulin. I'm the mayor of Campbellton. On behalf of the cities of Bathurst, Campbellton, Dieppe, Edmundston, Fredericton, Miramichi, Moncton, and St. John, welcome to our fourth and final webinar in the Strong City equals Strong Province Speaker Series. On behalf of the 8 cities, I would like to recognize that New Brunswick comprises part of the traditional territories of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Bestakamokaty peoples. The Cities of New Brunswick Association continues to be extremely pleased with the widespread interest in the Strong Cities, Strong Province Speaker Series.
On behalf of the 8 cities of New Brunswick, I would wish to recognize that the New Brunswick comprises of the traditional territories of the Mi'kmaq, the Wolastoqey, and the Bestakamokaty peoples. The cities of New Brunswick continues to be extremely pleased with the widespread interest in the Strong Cities, Strong Province Speaker Series, including participation from all 3 levels of government, the private sector, and community leaders from all parts of New Brunswick and beyond. We're also very pleased today to welcome our keynote speakers, Dr. Paul Mazerolle, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of New Brunswick, Ginette Gautreau, Executive Director of New Brunswick Multicultural Council, and Danielle Alain, Minister of Local Government and Government's Reform, Province of New Brunswick.
On behalf of the New Brunswick Cities Association, we are very pleased with the widespread interest in the Strong Cities, Strong Province Speaker Series, including participation from all 3 levels of government, the private sector, and community leaders from all parts of New Brunswick and beyond. We are also really pleased to welcome today's keynote speakers, Dr. Paul Mazerolle, President and Vice Chancellor, University of New Brunswick, Ginette Gautreau, Executive Director, New Brunswick Multicultural Council, and Danielle Alain, Minister of Local Governments and Government's Reform, Province of New Brunswick.
Mayor Lorden from Miramichi will more formally introduce our keynote speakers. We want to start off today's session with 4 unique innovation and action profiles from the cities of Edmundston, Bathurst, Fredericton, and St. John.
We wanted to start today's session by presenting 4 unique innovation in action profiles from the cities of Edmundston, Bathurst, Fredericton, and St. John. A reminder that today's webinar is being delivered with simultaneous interpretation services, which you can access from your Zoom screen.
A reminder of today's webinar is being delivered with simultaneous translation services, which you can access from your Zoom screen. And with that, a bit of background and context, it is now my pleasure to introduce the first of our 4 innovation and action profiles. J'aimerais vous introduire.
And I would now like to introduce the first of our 4 innovation in action profiles. The City of Edmundston, Kellen Kilfoyle from Planning and Network Analysis, Energy, Edmundston. Kevin Kilfoyle.
The City of Edmundston.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Mairesse.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Madame. And good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here today. And as Her Worship mentioned, I work at the Edmundston Energy Corporation. And today I'm just going to give you a short overview of our project. As you perhaps know, Edmundston is one of the 3 municipalities that has its own energy power service. But perhaps you don't know that Energy Edmundston is connected to NB Power. And in 2011, Energy Edmundston celebrated its 60th anniversary. In 2003, it was the only municipality that used renewable sources to generate power. And we agreed to participate in the partnership to reduce greenhouse gases for the benefit of the organization and the whole community. I'll give you a couple of examples of our projects and explain how they work. In 2005, we purchased the Fraser Paper Dam that you on Madawaska River here in Edmundston. All of the generation through this was transferred to our distribution network. This new acquisition allowed us to increase our power generation by 33%. In 2009, Energy in Edmundston launched a new power generation project to increase its renewable energy sources by 55% by using a new power center in 2011. We went to 8.8 megawatts of power with an average of 22 million kilowatt hours per year. Today, this serves about 9,000 residents and reduces our greenhouse gases by 15,000 tons. We are working on projects that use new technologies today, always with thinking that we're going to reduce our ecological footprint. We are planning on using solar power and to store electricity by using the surface areas of municipal buildings. Over the next few months, we're going to try new heat pumps for municipal services in order to measure the impact of the storage of heat in the high demand areas to use them later, and then use them for the residential sector. The energy services are always looking for new technologies and ways that we can generate more power using renewable sources, be it through hydropower, solar, or using batteries to store the power. The Edmundston is taking the measures necessary to work in that direction. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Merci, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Now we'd like to go further with the City of Bathurst, and I'd like to introduce Chief Terry Richardson from the Papineau First Nations for joining us today and representing the City of Bathurst. Chief Richardson.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. I really appreciate the chance here. Hello, bonjour, gwe. I guess, to start with, I guess one of the things I wanted to bring forward, I was sort of taken back that why our protocol would be something that would be innovative, but I guess it is. And when I got a chance to sit down and think about it, we all know that many cities in New Brunswick are close to our First Nation communities, and partnerships are key for surviving and working together. We all know that we're out there now competing for the same opportunities and the same funds. So it's important that we're able to come up with a solution that would actually make it so that we're working together in certain areas. So our protocol agreement with the City of Bathurst, basically the parties agree to discuss issues of common interests, such as economic development, cultural issues, and tourism. And it's important that, as we move forward in the north, specifically in northern New Brunswick, that we have these partnerships. This particular protocol was based similar to the one that we have with the Port of Beldoon and the First Nation communities there. And what this provides, again, is the opportunity on the economic. I see it on the economic level, because it's very important that the cities have an opportunity. Often you'll have municipal service agreements signed with First Nation communities, and that's it. But why not become a partner with the First Nations in development? Is there an opportunity for a city or a community to actually partner with the First Nation and move forward on an economic scale? Because I know it's hard for some cities, but there are ways of doing it, right? And the municipal service agreement is one way of becoming a partner in a project. And it provides an income to the cities that are really having a hard time now. I mean, I'm not saying every city, but we all know that our tax bases are sometimes shrinking in our First Nation community, in the cities and our local surrounding areas. So this kind of protocol is an agreement that we've signed with the City of Bathurst, with the past mayor, as well with the present mayor, who has decided that this is an excellent opportunity for us to work together in areas where we can benefit not only the First Nation, but benefit the local City of Bathurst as well. As we move forward, we see an economic development opportunity between us and the city of Bathurst on a project. We have a particular project we're running that's 2 phases. And in the second phase, we see the city of Bathurst as being a partner in that phase development. So this is what I think innovation is all about, is creating these opportunities for not only the cities to benefit, but the First Nation communities to benefit. Because at the end of the day, we're all partners and we're all in it together. And it's important that we do what we can to make NB stronger. And like we like to say here, onward NB. And that's what our plan is here, to move forward and to continue to have growth in Northern New Brunswick. So thank you for my opportunity, Miss Mayor, to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much, Chief. Merci, Chef Richardson, de représenter.
Thank you, Chief Terry Richardson, for representing Bathurst.
You're right. Economic development is and tourism is very important to all of us in the North. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to the City of Fredericton, Larry Shaw, the Director, the CEO of Ignite Fredericton and Knowledge Park, Inc. Le Directeur Général de Ignite Fredericton.
He is CEO of Ignite Fredericton and Knowledge Park, Inc.
Welcome, Larry.
Thank you and good afternoon. Bonjour. It's a great opportunity to be here and share with you some of the things that's been going on in Fredericton and ultimately the province in terms of cybersecurity. As I begin, maybe a few thoughts just to consider some metrics that are happening in cybersecurity. More than 3.5 million jobs are going to be going unfilled in cybersecurity by the end of 2021. Cybersecurity has 0% unemployment rate. Global cybersecurity market currently right now will top out at $160 billion annually. And almost every 39 seconds, there's some form of cybersecurity attack at a global level. The losses in cybersecurity crime is going to exceed $6 trillion by the end of 2021. So there should be no doubt as to why cybersecurity is a priority for Fredericton. And in fact, one of the top opportunities for the entire region. The median pay in cybersecurity in the US right now for an analyst role is $100,000 a year US. Cybersecurity impacts every country. It impacts every business, every government, individuals in the world, and is a two-sided sword in that it has extreme highs and benefits. The internet and the connection of the internet and the connected world, but at the same time, there's huge challenges and there's dark moments of crime and security attacks. You know, we only have to look to St. John to see how close that can come home in the last few months. Cybersecurity is a regional opportunity for New Brunswick. It isn't just about Fredericton. It's about all the communities in the province of New Brunswick and the opportunities that we created in each one of the regions, whether it's urban and or rural. It, however, is anchored in Fredericton because of the investments that we've made. It's it's the thought leadership that's coming out of Fredericton, particularly out of the University of New Brunswick, workforce and skills development, rapidly developing business cluster, which is anchored by the likes of IBM and Siemens and Bulletproof. And now we're seeing, emerging startups such as Bergeron Security, as well as Sonray Technologies. At the present time, there's more than 700 employees in cybersecurity here in the greater Fredericton area as we speak. The foundation of cybersecurity, I would argue, has always been based in UNB and includes the items such as Canada's first research chair. We also have a university also has created the first research institute. And there's a master's program in cybersecurity now being created by UNB. In 2020, the Premier announced cybersecurity as one of our top 3 priorities for the province. That was directly the result of the investments and opportunities New Brunswick is making in creating Cyber NB, which is to spearhead the economic development opportunities for the province. I'm just picking up on a few of the things you see on the screen in terms of brands and logos. Knowledge Park is in the final stage of commissioning Canada's largest capital program, which is dedicated to collaboration and leadership in cybersecurity, again, in partnership with Opportunities New Brunswick and UNB. The Cyber Center is a $37 million purpose-built facility that can operate at military-grade security levels, but at the same time has the operational resilience to stay completely operational for 96 hours post any disaster that may happen in this region. So cybersecurity really success has been built on the excellence of research from the universities, but not only universities, business as well. Strategic investments that we're making, such as Cyber Center, the doubling down on innovation. Innovation has to lead this conversation in cybersecurity. Commercialization of the research that's being completed through organizations like Planet Hatch, Energia, and a new acceleration program under CyberNB, which is being referred to as CyberHatch. But it's also part and parcel due to the partnerships that are in place with organizations such as CCNB and NBCC and UDM, University of New Brunswick, and other private institutions for education. Knowledge Park now is at the 20th year of our investment in infrastructure and supporting emerging innovation in a strategic cluster. So cybersecurity really does have the potential to impact the GDP of the province of New Brunswick by about $370 million in a 5-year period. The strategic focus and prioritization of cybersecurity really does have, and will benefit both urban and rural communities, both large and small cities. Everybody can take advantage of the opportunity, especially where we have the ability to have remote work. So we are leaders in the space today, and I think we will continue to be leaders in the space in the future. What we require to ensure that happens is the proper investment by both province and federal governments to support the continued growth in cybersecurity. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Merci, Larry. And last but not least, John Collins, City Manager of the City of St. John. And
our last but not least would be from the City of St. John, Mr. John Collins, City Manager. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon to talk to you about an initiative undertaken by the City of St. John that has evolved and has become a regional project. The challenge that we wanted to address is shown here on the left side of the slide.
3 separate, distinct economic development agencies that the city collaborated with. In addition to those 3 agencies, the City of St. John, of course, also played a key role in economic development through its growth planning and development initiatives, but we also took the lead in terms of population growth. And not shown on this slide, but also key elements was, of course, the federal and provincial level departments, government departments and agencies that also played a role. Although everybody did tremendous work, it's fair to say that there were different mandates and slightly different focus within all of these different entities. And therefore, you did have a bit of a patchwork quilt. So what was the problem? Well, one, of course, can imagine there were alignment issues to be addressed, but there's also efficiencies and best use of resources that needed to be considered. And the example I give everyone is picture, if you will, that every one of these organizations had their own marketing arm where they would go out and sell the City of St. John. Why do we need so many marketing arms when we talk about economic development? So some 24 months ago, almost to the day, we began a project to see if there was a better model. We very quickly made a determination through a special advisory group that consisted of members from the business community, from academia, from the government, and also some economists, that in fact the singular entity model or singular agency was the way to go, but equally important, perhaps even more so, was that it needed to be a regional approach and not just focused on the City of St. John. Over the past 2 years, we have developed that model and sought the necessary collaboration and agreement from all of the various contributing partners within the region. And in the middle of the slide, you see what this new agency is all about. One board, one mandate, one plan, one budget. It touches on all of the aspects identified within the blue box. And then we are so bold to suggest that it is an Atlantic Canada first. Not in terms of a single agency, many places have that, but what is somewhat unique is that we have made a conscious decision to roll tourism and destination marketing into this model. And the other conscious decision is that this agency has guaranteed funding for the next 5 years. So now the board, the CEO, and the entire staff can be focused on outcomes instead of worrying about where their next funding envelope will be coming from. So we now have a one-stop regional economic development agency for Greater St. John. It is in desperate need of a name. And in fact, the name will be announced this coming Thursday. It is a new entity. It only stood up on the 1st of January. So time will tell, but certainly there is a tremendous level of optimism and enthusiasm for the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Merci, John. Je cède maintenant la parole au Mayor Lordan.
I will now give the floor to Mayor Lordan, who's going to introduce our three keynote speakers.
Turn the microphone, or I guess the screen, over to Mayor Lordan, who will now take it from here.
The virtual microphone. Merci, Madame la Mairesse. And thank you to all of the presenters for sharing the stories of innovation in our cities across the province. We'll now move into our keynote speakers for today's event. And the first will be Dr. Mazeral from the University of New Brunswick. I'll give a quick bio and then I'll pass it over to Dr. Mazeral. Dr. Paul Mazeral is UNB's 19th president and vice chancellor, an internationally recognized criminologist with degrees from the University of New Brunswick, Northeastern University, and the University of Maryland. Paul is also a professor in the Department of Sociology at UNB. He spent his early career in the United States and relocated to Australia in 2000, where he established and was the foundation program head for the criminology department at the University of Queensland. In 2006, he moved to Griffith University and became director of the Key Center for Ethics, Law, Justice, and Governance. In 2009, he was appointed Pro-Vice Chancellor for the Arts, Education, and Law group, a position he held for 10 years. Paul is a member of the University of New Brunswick, of the New Brunswick Business Council, the New Brunswick Ministerial Economic Advisory Council, the National Advisory Research Committee for Universities Canada, and the Advisory Board for the Wallace McCain Institute. Today, Dr. Mazeral will speak to us, give us some remarks with a focus on the critical importance of New Brunswick's 8 cities in facilitating diversity and population growth in cooperation with our province's post-secondary institutions. So for his 5-minute presentation, I should note we'll have a presentation from each of the 3 keynote speakers, and then we'll move into a question and answer session as well. So Dr. Mazeral, over to you, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, Mayor Lordan. It's great to be here and great to see so many folks on this webinar. It's a real privilege to be here. I elected not to do a PowerPoint, so I'm just going to try to speak quickly because it's a big topic in terms of the role of our cities and the opportunities for growth and diversity and expansion. And I must say the quick presentations by the representatives from those 4 cities were very inspiring and illuminating. It's just, you can see the energy across our regions, both from Chief Richardson and Larry Shaw and everybody. It's really inspirational stuff. So I just want to spend my time, Adam, talking a little bit about the UNB context, a bit where we're up to in our strategic plan, but also talk about the role of cities and the critical opportunities that we have together to help growth, expansion of diversity, and receptivity for growth. So a little bit about the UNB context. As you know, we've been around for a long time, 1785, when the university was opened as King's College. Importantly, for people to recognize that we really don't just see ourselves for the University of New Brunswick, we see ourselves as a university for New Brunswick. So we see our mission as very much outwardly faced to try to help drive economic, social development, to be a university where we're an instrument for social change and social progress. So our mission very much is to try to advance the public good, to be an engaged university, to try to foster impact through our core activities of teaching, research, service, and engagement. So obviously students are part of that, but so are our academics and research, and indeed our partnerships. We're a very entrepreneurial university, as you might have heard. A number of times UNB was voted a few years ago by Startup Canada as Canada's most entrepreneurial university. And that was a hard-fought recognition of what was happening, what has been happening at UNB for several years. There's a very strong entrepreneurial spirit. We see it in our business and management faculties. We see it in the Wallace McCain Institute. We see it in the Pont de Sponde, and we see it in our technology management and entrepreneurship centers, indeed in cybersecurity in many areas, engineering, et cetera. I think there's something like 140 companies that have come out of UNB in the last 10 years. So that's a really positive story that doesn't always get told. And the university I think, has been quite humble historically at tooting its own horn about the work that it's doing with the community to advance the public good. About $1.8 billion contribution to the provincial economic situation per year, I think is really positive. In terms, so we do exist to try to change the world. We can't do it alone. Increasingly, we want to have more and more students, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Right now, about 14% of our students are from away, are international students. About 4% of our students are Indigenous. In our new strategic plan, we are looking to grow more of that quite substantially. So about 10% of our undergraduate students are international. About 30% of our graduate students are international. And indeed, they're drawn from, for undergraduate students, over 90 countries of those individuals come to New Brunswick to study. And the graduate level, it's about 70 countries. Just want to quickly, our current context to share with the webinar is around our strategic vision. We have a new strategic vision. It was approved about a year ago, 2 weeks before COVID slowed us down. But it's a very ambitious strategic vision, UNB toward 2030. And the short version is this: we need to grow. We can't be a 9,000 student university and really realize our broad ambitions for social change, entrepreneurship, and impact. So we are envisioning growth up to 15,000 students in the years ahead. We'll need to do that through not just domestic students, not just international, not traditional high school leavers, but also adult learners, professional learners, more online learning. And we're looking to grow international students to upwards to 20 to 25%. And before the pandemic slowed us down, I had taken a number of trips overseas, building partnerships, and we're starting to see major increases in our applications for UNB. The other aspect of our growth is around research. We're a $50 million university every year in research money. We want to become a $100 million research research income university. And that's because we have things we want to do as an institution. We want to position our research onto the big challenges in society. 4 big ones we've identified are health challenges, challenges in energy, water, and security, including things like human security, food security, and cybersecurity. So we're looking to pivot our research to be really outwardly focused. And what's going to enable all of that is partnerships. Partnerships with government, with communities, with industry, other universities, et cetera. Just very quickly, a couple of other caveats of our strategic plan that are worth mentioning: that the transformational student experiences are fundamental. Indeed, we believe strongly that the UNB experience, the university experience, is transformational. It does shape people's lives. And things like experiential learning, getting chances to have co-op placements, working with government, city, businesses, industry, is critical for that student's success and also critical for growth. And we also see things like equity, diversity, inclusion, and our commitments to truth and reconciliation as something that transcends our entire strategic vision, all the 5 pillars. So we're pretty excited about our strategic vision, but we can't do it alone. And that brings me to the critical role of cities in helping to enable the growth that we envision, as well as sustaining economic development, social progress, et cetera. So we see the role for the cities of New Brunswick as critical to our mission to help change the world. We think that we're absolutely stronger together. And so we have very strong embedded relationships, both in the St. John region and the Fredericton region, Moncton to some extent with our nursing program. And we're looking to ramp up. Indeed, if we're growing as an institution, We think that's good for the province and the cities, but we want that to be reciprocal relationships. So we're looking for opportunities to move from transactional relationships to strategic. How do we open up doors of communication? How do we identify opportunities collaboratively and see how the universities can work in partnership with the cities across the province? So I think partnerships are crucial. Imagine as we grow our students, the opportunities for experiential learning, employees around the province, opening up their doors for student placements. We were doing this in the COVID context last year. We had many students who were available. There was a provincial program that we helped shape called Catalyst, and we made some of our students available to employers to help them adjust to the COVID context. So we want to do more of that. So the issue is obviously working in partnership with cities about experiential learning, but also thinking about projects. We want to be a university that helps solve problems, working together. What are the problems, but how can we work in partnership with government and business to advance solutions? So, and part of the growth, as you know, Mayor Lorden, is around international students, and that forces us to look seriously of how our cities can be really receptive and embracing people from away. How can we foster that? How can we, look at the opportunities for international students who want to come to Canada, who want to come to New Brunswick, who want to experience economic opportunities in a safe province and also a safe place to live. So there's a lot of more things we can talk about, but it's about understanding diversity, not just attracting people to our region, but retaining them, and what we have to do together so that our universities and our cities and our province become sticky, that people come here and stay and they can prosper and build wonderful futures for their families and for our cities. So I've probably already talked too long, Mayor Lorden, but why don't I stop there? But I think this is a really important topic and we're happy to be part of the discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazarau. You have a mandate and want to grow, and we want our communities and our cities to grow. And I think more and more we're all understanding that in a small province like New Brunswick, we're going to do that best through partnerships and collaboration. So your points are well taken and very much aligned with our vision as an association for how we're going to grow and increase our population and our economies together. So thank you very much. And we'll be back to you shortly for the Q&A session, so please stand by. Nos deuxième conférencier d'honneur d'aujourd'hui.
Our next speaker today is Ginette Gautreau. Ginette is the interim executive director at the New Brunswick Multicultural Council. She has been with NBMC for 5 years, working as assistant director and leading projects on immigrant women's rights and empowerment. Prior to joining the council, Ginette lived abroad in France and Mexico for nearly 3 years and spent 5 years in Ottawa, where she completed her master's degree in international development and working in the fields of international development and humanitarian assistance. She's originally from Memramcook, and she is passionate about making New Brunswick a dynamic, intercultural, and inclusive province.
I think that's a very good goal for all of us. So Ms. Ginette will now speak on the theme of growing together and the importance of planning for growth and diversity. Ginette, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Mayor Lorden. Merci à tous. I'll do my remarks in English, but I can answer his questions in whichever language. So I was asked to talk about the importance of growing together and about planning for growth and diversity. And this really comes at a quite opportune time. As some of you may be aware, the New Brunswick Multicultural Council is also in the midst of its New Conversations tour, which builds exactly on these conversations with 15 communities across the province. And it's a time for reflection because when we're launching into the second version of the tour, it reminds me of the 2018 tour that we did of the same name and where the conversations were in 2018 and where they are now. And when we launched the tour in 2018, I can say that in certain communities, in some areas, it was a little bit like pulling teeth to get people to still understand really the importance of population growth and immigration for the economic growth and the vitality of our communities. And that conversation has evolved significantly just in a matter of a couple of years. And on Wednesday, we had the New Conversation Tour event for the Miramichi region. And I have to say that Mayor Lorden took the opportunity to also launch and present the population growth strategy for the Miramichi region during our event. And these are exactly the kind of evolutions and actions that we were hoping to draw from those initiatives and that we're hoping to see in communities across the province. So just to provide a little bit of further context in terms of how things have changed over the last couple of years, you will recall that in 2019, the provincial government also launched its population growth strategy, calling for 7,500 newcomers by 2024, so approximately 1% of our population every year. We're also looking at increasing our retention rates to 80% and growing our Francophone immigration targets. Since then, our population nominations, our immigration nominations have remained steady, even in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic. There obviously have been delays over the past years in terms of travel restrictions and processing immigration, but we're seeing those immigration numbers remaining relatively steady and hope that those numbers will stabilize in the years to come. And I think one of the greatest strengths in our province is that we are so obsessed around that retention rate. And I think there's a lot of interest in seeing that retention rate growth. I mean, we currently see approximately 70% retention rate after 1 year, and that tends to drop to about 50% after 5 years. So there's, political responses to that, and then there's community responses to that retention rate. Politically, we have designed programs that are better targeted to the needs of employers in our communities, like the Atlantic Immigration Pilot. And that pilot in particular, there's a recent report that came out that was showing a 90% retention rate after 1 year. So that shows that there's, the targets are, the program is better adjusted to the needs of the province, especially to the needs of the employers. It's also bringing newcomers into different kind of communities, and it's driving conversations in new areas. However, there still needs to be a community response, and I think those are the challenges that we're facing now. So right now, we're seeing immigration growing. We're going to see immigration grow for the next decade. I think the conversation has gone beyond, do we need it, do we not need it? And it's more about how do we make this a success? Employers are recruiting employees to maintain their workforce, to grow their workforce, and to make sure that the economic vitality of the province remains the same. But when you're recruiting employees, you're recruiting entire families, and they're coming with spouses and they're coming with kids. And these employees and spouses and kids become neighbors and friends and clients and service users within our communities. And we need to all work together in that retention story and that retention plan and make sure that that inclusion and integration happens across our communities. We're still facing a number of complex issues that will require significant partnerships. So around housing, for example, I think it comes up in every single community that there is a high housing crisis. Around foreign credential recognition and the valuation that we put on foreign experiences and qualifications. On language learning and ensuring that especially our Francophone minority communities can maintain that linguistic strength within their communities with a number of newcomers arriving. So what we're really calling for, and I think what we're seeing more and more across the province are population growth strategies at a regional and city level. And there are several cities and regions across the province who are ahead of the curve and really diving into this, and Miramichi being one of them, Moncton another, St. John, Fredericton, Edmundston. Several of these cities have come together, and those really do happen only through collaboration. I really appreciate that, Dr. Mazaral, you talked about the growth in post-secondary international students in post-secondary institutions. We cannot have conversations about growing our international student population without having a conversation also about housing availability. And each city needs to kind of look at what are the infrastructures that we're going to need to welcome hundreds of newcomers every year. What are the housing, the roadways, the additional services that might be required? What are going to be the impacts on our public services, on educators, and our teachers, and our healthcare in terms of service users? How can we increase cultural competency and cultural sensitivity to our whether it's in client services, with our employers, with our community members? And how do we create those bumping spaces, which admittedly have become a little bit more complicated in COVID times, but how do we create those spaces where newcomers are are meeting community members and becoming really part of the community, and how are we planning as a city, whether it's a welcome barbecue or a multicultural festival or whatever the case is, to make sure that those newcomers are making connections within the communities, both socially and professionally. So we're really calling on all communities to sit down and have and to collaborate on those population growth strategies. And if we're not there yet, then we really need to accelerate that work. And those will only happen through partnerships. Our settlement agencies across the province are stepping forward. Municipalities need to step forward. Various government departments. It's not only population growth, it's service and it's the Department of Health, the Department of Education, and of course, employers and community members need to be at the table. We also have to have a conversation about representation at those decision-making tables and looking at who's there and who's not there. And if newcomers are not being part of these conversations, and First Nations are not part of the conversations, and employers and the stakeholders of these population growth plans are not there leading these conversations, then we really need to reassess. And so advocating for equity and representation and making sure that we're hearing the voices of those New Brunswickers in our communities. So I'll stop it at that and look forward to the question and answer period. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sheena. And it's quite clear to see how everybody's comments are certainly all steering in the same direction. And I love your observation that, and it's a big milestone for our province, that we're past having to have the discussion of, do we need immigration? And now we're talking about how can we make it successful? That was a great point. So stick around. We'll be back with you for some Q&As in a few minutes. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our third keynote speaker today. And that is Minister Danielle Alain, of course, the Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform, a very exciting recent title change that we're quite happy about here in the municipal world. I'll quickly introduce Minister Alain with his bio. Danielle Alain was elected to the riding of Moncton East in September 2020. He was sworn in as Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform on September 29th. Previously, Minister Alain was an elected councillor at large in the city of Dieppe during the municipal election in 2016 and sat on the Kodiak Regional Policing Authority. In 2013, he was appointed Deputy Minister of Management and Administration in the Office of the Premier of New Brunswick, and in 2010, he was appointed President and Chief Executive Officer of NB Liquor. He also worked as Director of Corporate Affairs and Strategic Relations for Imperial Manufacturing Group from 2014 to 2020. Minister Alain holds a bachelor's degree in social science with a concentration in political science, as well as a master's degree in business administration from the Université de Moncton. So today, in his opening remarks before we move into Q&A, Minister Alain will update us with respect to the Government of New Brunswick's municipal reform process, timelines, and consultation process. Minister Alain, welcome, and over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor Lorden. I just want to also thank Mayor Engelhardt-Paulin, Monsieur Mazerolle, Madame Gautreau. Lots of wisdom there, so thank you. This is only my second webinar, and second in my life, and the second one in a week, so figure it out. I'm getting ahead of myself here. But I just want to reiterate the words of Chief Richardson. Chief Richardson, my first webinar this week was regarding listening to Mr. McKenna, Chief Paul, and Mr. Risley on their Clearwater seafoods and how that can be definitely a new partnership with First Nations. I hear you and thank you for those words. And when we look at New Brunswick and moving it forward, I think we have I think we can grow our nations together. And for that, honest to God, too, Chief Richardson, thank you for those words. Also, I'd like to thank the cities for their presentations. It was very thoughtful, and it was actually great assets for New Brunswick, so thank you. Donc, bonjour, c'est un plaisir de participer à cette série avec vous aujourd'hui.
I'm very happy to be here today.
For hosting these recent webinars. There's been some great speakers and important discussions. They're informative, they're engaging, plus they help us connect during this pandemic. I can tell you that I've heard some great feedback from your past sessions, and it's making people think, react, and we welcome this from local governance reform perspective very much. The question of how our province 8 cities can contribute to a viable and sustainable future while dealing with a pandemic that has impacted the economy isn't an easy topic, nor is it unique to New Brunswick. Communities, big and small, all over the world face similar challenges. Add other long-standing issues such as social, demographic concerns, and it seems even more daunting. But I know as New Brunswickers, we are up to the task. As the Minister of Local Governance Reform, I know how important it is to have viable communities. And in New Brunswick, we are fortunate to have organizations such as yours that work on behalf of the communities of New Brunswick. It has been a tough year, but there are rays of sunshine as well. And I can tell you right now, democracy is not easy. We see what just happened in Washington a little over a month ago now. You have to take care of democracy. You gotta massage it. COVID is not easy. COVID has been tough on New Brunswickers, and again, we're just seeing with the vaccines coming along. We see maybe a ray of sunshine this spring, but I can tell you that local governance reform is not easy also. So we have to open the discussion. We have to cooperate. We have to work together. This is a New Brunswick team effort. And if we don't reach out to municipalities, to LSDs, to rural communities, to everyone in New Brunswick, this is not going to happen. So we have to work as a team. As my premier said in the State of the Province address earlier this month, who would have thought that amidst a global pandemic, we would be sharing highlights of well over $200 million in new private investments here in New Brunswick. Il a dit depuis le 1er avril 2020, les clients d'Opportunités Nouveau-Brunswick.
He said that Opportunities New Brunswick have created over 1,700 jobs, so almost $200 million in new contributions to the provincial GDP. The Premier also mentioned that real estate sales have increased by 15% over the year, and that construction of new apartment buildings and condos has beaten records.
It's even more important than ever that we work to continue to work together. C'est le moment d'imaginer le Nouveau-Brunswick autrement.
This is a time that we can imagine New Brunswick differently, and it's achievable.
Not only drive our provincial economy, but they also play a huge role in so many aspects of our lives, from recreation to cultural to immigration, just to name a few. You are an economic and service hubs. By attracting new Canadians, cities help us become more diverse. Immigrants help us expand our cultural mosaic, and I am so proud that the work we have done. L'année dernière, le taux de croissance relatif à la population active et à l'emploi.
The labor force, we saw improvements last year in regards to the labor force. We saw growth of 4,000 new workers.
And help them succeed here in New Brunswick. I'm sure you read the media coverage last week regarding Atlantic Province's Economic Council's report. Atlantic Canada's 6 largest cities, which include Moncton, St. John, and Fredericton, now have 47% of the region's population compared with just 20 years ago. The council estimates that 80% of our immigrants coming to Atlantic Canada opt to settle in one of the region's 8 major cities instead of choosing some different regions across Canada. While in many ways this is good news for our cities, it presents also opportunities and challenge as well. This all ties into local governance reform and why we must, and we're tackling it right now. We know we need reform and it's long overdue. J'espère que vous avez pris le temps de consulter notre site web.
I hope that you have had time to visit our website on local governance and governance reform that we launched in January. There's a lot of information on the website, and we will be adding regional profiles soon. It's important that people participate in a constructive way so that we can work together to build, to improve things for the province. We will be publishing a discussion document soon, and we will be continuing the discussions in the summer and in the fall. The comments from the public and stakeholders will be included into a white paper.
Public consultations across New Brunswick. So if there's a rumor out there to say we're not going to be public, I love people because I'm in the people business. And you guys should love people too. So let's work together on this. Il s'agira d'un processus qui aboutira à un
This will be a process that will end with a plan to help us go forward. We need your cooperation, your ideas, and your contacts to make sure that they are informed and that they become engaged as well.
For again inviting me as I look forward for more meaningful discussion in days, weeks, and months ahead. And as a great premier always said, New Brunswick will be strong when all the regions of New Brunswick are strong. Thank you very much, Mayor Lorden.
Thank you, Minister Alain. And I must say, you know, for only your second time, you're already sounding like an old pro here at these web forums.
Thank you.
I'll also add, Minister, as I'm sure you're aware, this morning we had the very first meeting of the Municipal Reform Advisors Committee, which I thought went very well. Although preliminary, it seemed that everybody was quite engaged in the mission at hand and a very open and constructive first dialogue.
It's going to be tough, but we got to do it. So let's go.
That's right. And we only now have just a few minutes left. So I've got to pick the best of my list of questions here. I'm going to throw the first one to you, Minister, and then we'll quickly go back over to the others as well. And we'll stay with the municipal reform theme, of course. Minister, fair taxation is a huge topic here in New Brunswick and in our 8 cities. Has there been any initial thinking with respect to the mechanisms or policies that will ensure that citizens, businesses, industry, and municipalities all pay their fair share of regional, municipal operating and infrastructure costs on an ongoing basis?
Have you been thinking? No, I haven't been thinking whatsoever. I'm kidding, of course. But what we've been focused is on getting the information out to the public on the reform website. And what's being paid for today. Because what we realize is that not all New Brunswickers have the necessary information or necessary ability to decipher that information also. So central to reform is that we have to realize who pays for what services, or what services do we receive. And we have to have a better understanding on that also. And that's really important. And you'll see in the green paper, as much as I don't want to give too much away, that we're working on different governance models, both locally and regionally, in other provinces. We're looking what other provinces are doing. But just as there's a cost, a service, and financing perspective, and I think that's what we have to do is, from the citizen's point of view, I'm taxed a certain amount of money, but what services do I receive? And that ability to decide what services are provided is not given to 30% of the population. And from those services, how is it going to affect my quality of life? And those services affect quality of life. So that's why I'm looking forward to start doing some comparable analysis with our other provinces and our cities also. And this reform is, I hope, going to benefit us and give us a roadmap for the next, let's say, 20, 30 years.
Thank you, Minister. Well, we'll look forward to doing that work with you and seeing where we land.
Thank you.
Over quickly to Dr. Mazeral and to Jeanette. I guess the question for both of you is on the path forward. And we've heard lots of common themes from everybody here today and in all 4 of our speaker series events. It's quite clear that our cities have a key role in helping to drive our province forward. From each of you, what do you think is the most important immediate action New Brunswick's 8 cities should take to strengthen their ability to help move our province forward? So to help grow our population and our economy and to make our province sticky, as you said, Dr. Mazeral. Over to you first.
Well, thanks for that. Look, this is a really important question, and there's so much that can be said. I do think Jeanette said it best in terms of the importance of partnerships. And part of that is recognizing the power that we all have to make a difference better together. So that, if people know what the capability, the capacity of the university is, then they might reach out and we can reach back. So it's making sure that we at the university also have porous boundaries. People know how to connect, and then we can say, oh, if there's a problem with homelessness or governance reform, hey, we have some experts that we can contribute to the dialogue, but also we have a vehicle through our university networks to access the best and brightest around the world. That's something that unique that universities can provide, are access to expertise, but access to global expertise. So I think that's really important. So firstly, recognizing that we're stronger together, that partnership metaphor is so important. As we grow, so what cities can do, I think, the most immediate things is thinking about how we can be better collaborators and how we can help drive, innovation together, how we can drive that entrepreneurship. So for me, our doors are open. Our phones are they're on the hook. We want the call to ring, the telephone to ring. We are heavily committed to entrepreneurship, but we know we have to have the right context to do that in cities. So if you look at Fredericton, as Larry Shaw commented, we've got a fantastic cyber industry in Knowledge Park, which, imagine if Knowledge Park didn't exist in Fredericton. And St. John, there's that industrial core, but also the energy sector. And as a university, we're looking to help contribute more to the health economy and innovation with public and private partners. So I guess what I'll leave you with is the idea that we see that we're vital, not by ourselves. It's that partnership between business, government, university, and community. And if they're all working in concert, and we've got to grease the wheel so it works well, then we're all going to benefit. So that's what I think we should be focusing on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mazeral. And Jeanette, to you, and unfortunately, quickly, what do you think is the most important immediate action that New Brunswick's 8 cities can take?
Really, I couldn't agree more with what Dr. Mazeral said. I think those partnerships are key. And I mentioned in my presentation of creating strategies and plans. We can invest all the time and money that we want in recruiting newcomers and bringing them here. That's not the problem. It's not bringing newcomers to New Brunswick that's a problem. It's keeping them here. And that role is no longer the responsibility just of settlement agencies and of population growth division. That role is at a community level. And that's where municipalities, employers, community members, and all departments, all levels of government have a role to play. So really developing those strategies, and those strategies need to have those infrastructure component, the services component, the social component, but also a conflict management component, and looking at how do you onboard that change within your community and get your community on board and aligned with the vision of growth and vibrancy for the region. And the final element that I'll say, and leave it at that, is we need to look at diversity and representation. We need those voices at the table to be leading these discussions. If we're drafting programs and policies and initiatives without those voices at the table, I think we're missing very crucial perspectives that could really element the discussions here.
Engaging the people who will be effective is crucial. Absolutely. Great point, Jeanette. And Minister Allan, I'll quickly ask you for your thoughts as well, an immediate action that our 8 cities can be taking, perhaps in addition to the immediate action of continuing to push for comprehensive tax reform and municipal reform, of course.
I think the best way right now is, as my boss always tells us, communications, communications, communications. I think it's reaching out to New Brunswickers, giving them the proper information, making sure that we're aligned on their engagement process, and to make sure that New Brunswickers, we want to hear this phase of the reform right now is to hear about New Brunswickers. I asked all my municipal partners to talk to your local LSD also, invite your LSDs to come visit also. There is a 30% of New Brunswickers, those they sit at regional service commissions, but don't have an opportunity to have the feel of what municipal government's all about sometimes. So I think it's communicating with New Brunswickers, sitting down with your next door neighbor and start talking about government reform and how it affects that person or his view of you, And I think at the end of the day, if we look at it from the citizens part of it, and what services we provide, and how can we affect or make that, give the ability to that person to have an effect on his quality of life is important, and to see what his vision is for. And again, to Chief Paul's comments, it's partnerships, and it's making sure that we recognize these people's strength and challenges, and we work together moving forward.
Well, thank you to all three of you for your insights today. You know, it's quite clear from today's conversation and the conversations all month long that no matter where we live in this province or no matter what we do, the path forward to success for all of us is by working together. So thank you very much. D'abord, merci aux trois conférenciers d'aujourd'hui pour cette.
Thank you to these three speakers today for the excellent discussions. I also want to thank Stephen Harvey for her help with the webinar today, and for the 4 community profiles. As we heard in webinar 3, challenging times require innovative solutions, and all 8 New Brunswick cities have proven their ability to come up with truly innovative environmental, social, and economic development partnerships and solutions. This brings to the conclusion our 4-part speaker series. I hope the series and our many guest speakers have contributed to a healthy discussion with respect to the future of New Brunswick cities, local governance, and the topic of municipal reform.
Will be challenging. The Strong City, Strong Province speaker series has reinforced our current reality. The status quo is simply not viable or sustainable. Municipal reform is critically important in shaping a sustainable future for all New Brunswickers. New Brunswick's 8 cities are encouraged by the province's and Minister Alain's commitment to meaningful stakeholder engagement and the need to recognize rural and urban centers, small and large communities, as well as the development of an urban New Brunswick strategy. The Cities of New Brunswick Association will continue to advocate for municipal governance and property taxation reforms that will give all 8 cities the ability to participate in decision-making that directly affects their costs, growth opportunities, and residential tax rates, and will ensure that we have strong cities in New Brunswick, helping to ensure a strong province for all New Brunswickers. Thank you for participating in today's session and the Strong City, Strong Province speaker series on behalf of the cities of Bathurst, Campbellton, Dieppe, Edmundston, Fredericton, Miramichi, Moncton, and St. John. Please note that all 4 webinars remain available for viewing on the CNBA's website in both official languages.